ένας γκουρού των μπαρ και των αποσταγμάτων. Έχει ανοίξει πάνω από 50 μπαρς σε όλη τη γη, έχει δική του σχολή στη Νέα Υόρκη για bartenders. Είναι ένας άνθρωπος ο οποίος είναι μια πραγματική εγκυκλοπαίδεια στις γνώσεις του. Σήμερα λοιπόν θα μας μιλήσει, είναι συνδιοκτήτης της Maguey και σήμερα θα μας μιλήσει για το Mezcal, το οποίο ξαναέφερε στην επιφάνεια μετά από πολλά χρόνια. So Olson. All right, let's do this. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure he just said something really nice, but I'm not sure exactly. Listen, for anybody who knows me at all, getting me up here to talk for 40 minutes is almost impossible, and I'm supposed to tell you the story of Maguey, 25 years in the business this year, in 40 minutes, plus taste you on a half a dozen mezcals and discuss sustainability of agave, and we're going to do it. But here's the deal. I'm going to ask you all, I know there's going to be a lot of questions, and I expect that, and I'm normally the guy who loves to take questions because I want to go where you want to go. But what I'm going to do today is get this information in your hands, and then I'm going to say to you something better. After the seminar, I'm going to go straight over to that station of Maguey in the middle there, and I have a special mezcal that we're not going to taste in this room, that you're going to come and taste with me and with my Wes from Europe, Roman Love. Does everybody know Roman? Roman's the one who actually set this whole thing up. Roman and I will be at the station. You come, you taste with us individually, and you ask your question mano a mano, one-on-one, the way it's supposed to be done. All right? So we'll save the questions until afterwards. So here's what we're going to do. Listen. I mentioned that we've been in the business 25 years now, and I've been teaching about agave spirits for about 35 years now, and I think I was just introduced as a guru of Mezcal or something to that effect, and somebody said that to me earlier today, and I just got to say this. There are so many Mezcal experts in the world today, many of whom are in this room right now, and I love that, and it makes me really, really proud. But as somebody who's been working in Oaxaca for more than 2 decades, the more I learn, the more I know that I don't know, and the more that I know that I need to learn, because there are no absolutes in this. One person's tobala is another village's papalote. One village's quiche is another village's madre quiche or tobasiche. It changes village to village, dialect to dialect, place to place, plant to plant. And anybody who ever says, this is the way it is, I'm just going to say, have another mezcal and move on. Because there are no this is the way it is. There are no rules. And today I'm going to break them all. I'm going to tell you truth because I got nothing to tell but truth. And we're going to go some cool places. But here's what I can tell you. Is that this thing, if it works, does this work? There we go. Mezcal is mystical. It is magical. It is ritual. And it is liquid art. An art form. And for those of you who think that Maguey distills mezcal, think again. We are not in the distilling business. Oh, we are in the business of distilling, no question about it. But we work with a dozen different families in a dozen different villages, supporting 15 villages in all. And our mission is to share that liquid art with the world. And that brings me to this guy right here, Ron Cooper, my partner. Ron Cooper is a brilliant artist. And Ron Cooper discovered Indians in the villages, in the mountains, making exotic elixirs, and his mission was to put it into his art and share it with his friends because he did indeed consider it liquid art. And I was lucky enough to meet Ron Cooper 25 years ago and help him, and today the world is drinking Mezcal, which is beautiful. But I want you to understand something. We are more like a gallery, and these families are our artists. And our mission originally was to bring their art form to the world, but our mission began to change. When I got there, I saw something bigger than me, and I realized that even though I would keep doing what I do and keep the school and keep teaching and traveling, keep working in the bar trade, which I've done for 40 years of my life, almost 50, believe it or not, I knew that the mission was so much bigger than us. Our mission became a mission of preservation and protection. to protect this ancient process, this ancient way of making this liquid art, and to preserve the culture surrounding it, and help these people and make sure that they could perform their art for as long as we're here and hopefully long beyond us. And that mission is what we're going to talk about today, because that is indeed sustainability. For those of you who think that Ron is celebrating perhaps here, what he's actually doing is talking about the agave plant itself. And to understand this, you have to first understand the plant. And understand that the plant is a survivor. The plant needs nothing but, as Ron says, cosmic energy, a little bit of water, no nutrients, and some crappy dirt patch or some rocks to grow in. Because the worse the soil is, the better the agave gets. The longer it can live, the harder it has to work. And the harder it works, the cooler the mezcal tastes. So, the first thing to understand about this is that the agave plant is a survivor. It lives on nothing. It wants for nothing. It needs nothing from us. And yet we need everything from it. The plant is the center of the subsistence lifestyle of the Native American to this day. For food, for sugar, for medicine, for clothing, for rope, for roofs on their homes and soles on their shoes. This plant is what it's all about. Now, I promised I'd talk about sustainability, and it's a complicated subject. First of all, we have all of these areas of sustainability, and then of course it's all surrounded by social. So I wanted to put this up there because for today, we're going to focus in on two areas of sustainability that we actually believe we might be able to control. One is the environment or the ecology or the plant itself and the survivor nature of this plant. The other is the social aspect, which is the single most important part. So what it all comes down to is the plant and the people. Or, this is driving me crazy over here. We only have 40 minutes, for God's sake. El maguey y la gente. Maguey is the Native American word for agave. So in this class, and for the rest of your lives, I hope, if you go to Jalisco, you call it agave because we use scientific terms there. In Oaxaca, in Puebla, we call it maguey. It is maguey. So the maguey, or the plant, la gente, or the people, which is what we're going to focus in on. So let's start with the plant. I'm going to show you how beautiful this plant is. That is angustifolia. That is known as espadín, or the sword cactus. That is tobasiche. You might taste that today. Madre quiche. You'll see that they are upright. It's a species we call the Karwinskis. That is a baril. That is a tepestate, also known as marmorata, the scientific term. You might taste one of those today too. That is cupreata. That is potatorum. That is what it looks like on the inside when it's just getting ready to reproduce, and we'll talk a lot about that later on today. Jabali growing right out of the side of the cliff. As you see, agave wants for nothing. It grows wherever it damn well feels like, and that could be anywhere, including in a rock wall in your house. And the beautiful, this is potatorum, but grown in a different climate and a different species. This is tepestate again, but now called pisora, as it's called in Puebla. Okay? Agave grown in its natural habitat, and here you'll see ripe agaves, tiny agaves. Are these ripe? Clearly. Not necessarily. Agaves are like people. Some are tall, some are short, some are fat, some are skinny, some grow old very quickly, others never grow up. That would be me, of course. And here you have these little guys over here could be riper than these big guys over here. This is where science doesn't get to be involved. This is where it becomes a true art form. This is why we cannot start harvesting fields all at one time, but have to continue with the ancient Zapotec way of harvesting the field as it gets ripe. We talk about agaves being ripe in 7 or 8 years. It takes 70, 11, 12 years for an agave to ripen, because in the field, some ripen faster, some ripen slower. Our job is to go in and take the ones that are ripe and leave the other ones so they can keep growing. But if we go in and harvest the whole field, we're compromising our ripeness, and that compromises our quality. We'll get to that more in just a moment. So, every single mezcal you taste today, and actually every single mezcal that's in our line in these fancy green bottles of Del Maguey, goes with this. This is the ancient process. We're going to spend a minute on this, and then we're going to get right into the tasting, because again, 40 minutes, guys. So, harvested by hand the old way. 7, 8, 9, 10. We have fields that take 12 years to ripen. What the hell are you going to do? Wait. You wait. You don't harvest them early, all right? And you notice a lot of green being left on that plant. Photosynthesis. That's where we get tannin. That's where we get acid. That's where we get structure. That's where we get balance. That is one of the main reasons why mezcal tastes different than tequila, but I'll get into that more in a moment. Every one of the mezcals that you taste today and everything in our lineup is still made the old way by roasting it in a pit underground. Absolutely essential to understand. This is how it works. We build a fire. We put rocks on top of it. We heat the rocks up. There is no fire. Mezcal is not smoke. Throw that out of your vernacular, all right? Mezcal is roasted underground. Think about a pig roast. Okay? Think about a lamb grease, all right? This is a lamb roast right here. So, we have fire, rocks. This is bagasse. These are the fibers of the agave after fermentation, after distillation. Completely indestructible. They go on top of the rocks to protect the magueys from the hot rocks. So it builds like this. Agave here, or maguey on top of bagasse on top of rocks. More maguey, more bagasse. More bagasse, more maguey, finally dirt. Looks like a big anthill, doesn't it? That roast underground, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. You're going to taste a mezcal today that roasted 30 days underground. Because they all do it a little bit different. All right? This is the roast, and by the way, I mentioned ritual before. We're going to talk a lot more about this, but to the Native Americans, they don't sit around drinking mezcal and getting shit-faced, okay? You know what they do? They drink mezcal for Semana Santa, for Navidad, for Dia de los Muertos, which just ended yesterday, day before yesterday. What day is it? I don't even know. I've been on so many places. They drink it when we come, because it's a fiesta. They drink it for weddings and funerals and baptisms, but that's it. It's ceremonial. It's spiritual, it's ritual, and we will, in a moment, you're all being handed mezcal right now. You should have a copita in your hand. By the way, keep your copitas. I'll forget to tell you that later. Keep them, bring it over to the table later, and I will fill it with something magical. Something more, even, not more magical than what you're having here, just another magical. How's that? And even rarer. So, this is the biggest difference between mezcal and tequila right here. Those are roasted agave hearts. Do you see the color? Caramelization. Roasted. Think about it this way. Do you know the difference between boiled potatoes and roasted potatoes? How about a poached salmon and a roasted salmon? That's easy, right? We could all. Tequila, by definition, is steamed. A mezcal, by definition, is roasted. That's the flavor right there. Look at these barril hearts. Look at how caramelized they are, okay? Look at these tobala hearts. So, every one of the mezcals in the lineup, milled by hand or by horse. By the way, we don't call that a tahona in Oaxaca. We call it a molino, a mill. Tahona is a Jalisco term from the Native Americans there. This molino is about 2 tons, and it crushes the agave. But that's not the only way it's done. Sometimes it's done with wooden bats. Sometimes you take each piece of the agave, put them on an obsidian stone, and beat it with a bat individually. Think that changes the flavor? How about if you were to beat it inside of a canoa? A hollowed out tree trunk with bats. It gets crazier. How about if I were to beat it on a piece of rock with a wooden mallet? By the way, those are tobasiches. Do you see how different they are in color from everything else you saw? They don't look caramelized, do they? Those have been roasted. That's how dry tobasiche is. That's why it's so tense. That's why it has that dusty dryness. It doesn't reach high sugar levels, so the caramelization is much less. Just to give you an idea. All of them are fermented naturally with ambient yeast in open-top fermenters made of wood. As it turns out, almost every one of our producers uses pine. But understand, it's like that. It's 100 years old, okay? It doesn't impart any flavor. Tina's like, we call them tinas, fermentation tanks. That is an active fermentation. That is a finished fermentation. Now think about wine. We're punching the cap down. Well, it's not quite the same. We actually put a big old stick in there and we move it around. But the idea is to keep the fermentation going. Natural fermentation, which in our fastest village takes 8 days. But we have ferments that'll last 30 days. By the way, I was going to say, just hold on to that mezcal for a second. We're going to do a ceremony in a moment, so you get the ceremony. Then we're going to take off from the tasting. Again, the rituality. That's a cross laying on top of the ferment. Because, think about this. If you're a Native American and you waited 10 or 12 years for your agaves to grow, or in some cases, you're going to taste agave today that ripened 30 years. 30 years. So you wait 30 years to be able to harvest that sucker. That's maybe once in your lifetime, right? Now you're going to bring it down on the back of a burro from the mountains. Now you're going to put it in your roast. You're going to ferment it. You're going to beat it up with a piece of frickin' wood, which takes you days and is the hardest labor on the planet. Then you're going to distill it. It's going to take you about 2 months, that entire process. Can you imagine if you have a stuck ferment? Can you imagine if you're using a clay still and it cracks and all the booze comes out? Not only 2 months of work, but 10, 12, 15, 30 years of waiting all goes out the drain. God has a lot to do with this. All right? This is, you don't want manojo involved here, okay? So, very small stills. The largest still is that one, which is 250 liters. All right? There it is again at nighttime, just because I love that photo. All right, clay stills. Carrizo or bamboo, which by the way is native to Mexico. This whole idea that the Chinese brought it or the Filipinos brought it, I'm just going to say this. We have evidence now that distillation probably began in Mexico as early as 600 BC. In the new Oxford Companion to Spirits and Cocktails that Dave Wondrich apparently will actually have published sometime next year, we actually say in the book, as we teach in our school, right Leo, that distillation probably happened in a lot of places simultaneously. We would be naive, if not even arrogant, to think that somebody had to teach this civilization that invented the telescope, that invented the calendar that we use to this day, that invented corn 8,000 freaking years ago, which scientists still say is the greatest feat of genetic engineering ever conducted on this planet. But we would have to teach them to light a fire under their fermented beer, capture the vapors, and higher alcohol would give us a preservative and medicine? I don't think so. It's pretty simple science, isn't it? And we believe that they may, as a matter of fact, I'm convinced that maybe the Filipinos brought it home with them in the 3rd century when they visited the Western shores and taught it to Asia. Why can't we go there? So, clay stills, carrizo. Here's another version of it. By the way, you're going to taste this one today. Look at how gorgeous that thing is. He's so meticulous. Another version of a clay still. This is the one they call the Filipino still, right? Because it looks, Leo, does that look like what they use in Philippines? Exactly, right? And this is how it works. You have a clay pot on top. You have a wooden, what we call a cuchara or a spoon. The only copper in the still is this little bowl up here with water circulating in it. Cold water goes in. The vapors come up from the clay pot on the bottom into the clay condenser on top. They hit that copper bowl. They drip down into that cuchara, and they come out that carrizo at the end. Give me a freaking break. Are you kidding me? Now, that seems very primitive. It is. And you can imagine the liquid is a little bit coarse and rough. You're going to taste that today. You tell me if you think it's, I think it's magic. I think it's art. So let's do it. Today, the first mezcal we poured for you is a mezcal that has never, ever been tasted anywhere outside of Mexico. We brought it here for you today because we'll be launching it in Europe in March, April, something like that. It'll be here in Greece in April. And I wanted to share it. And Roman says, you can't, we don't have it. I said, that's okay. I was in Oaxaca last week. I just brought some up for you because I wanted you to see it. This is called Las Milpas. Now this is how the ritual works. You all have a copita, right? You take your plastic cup and pour it in the copita. Don't ever drink out of plastic, especially mezcal. It's unfair. Why do we use a copita? Because in Oaxaca we drink out of a jicaro, which is a gourd shaped like this. Take your copita right now. If you were lucky enough to come with me to Oaxaca, which I hope you all do someday, some of you have, they will greet you, pour you a CG like this. They'll put a little drop on the ground for Mother Earth and our ancestors, always with gratitude. And then they look everyone in the eye and they say, Stigi baby. Try it. Stigi baby. That was terrible. Everybody together. 1, 2, 3.
Stigi baby.
Thank you. Stigi baby. Now, Las Milpas. I hate going this fast because I want to answer all your questions right now and tell you so many other things. That is the road to Las Milpas. The truest example ever of you don't find Mezcal, Mezcal finds you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you get Ron Cooper's book and read it. Because that's the name of the book, and that tells the story of how we started and where we come from. This is the road up to their palenque. When we first met them, they were not making Mezcal. They had Mezcal that they had made, and the reason they had it is because they do it the old way. When we first started in this business, hardly anyone had a still. Each village, or maybe one guy, would have a still. And then he'd rent out the use of his still to other people. So maybe you trade a goat, or a chicken, or Mezcal, or Maguey for the right to use the still. Then you make your Mezcal and you take it home for the wedding, or for Christmas, or for Dia de los Muertos. We tasted this guy's Mezcal and went insane. It took us 4 years to find him. When we found him, he's like, well, I don't have a still. We said, that's okay. We're going to buy you a still, and we're going to put you in business if you want to do this. Well, fortunately for us, the entire family's involved, and he has 3 sons. So it took us 5 years to get enough Mezcal from one 250-liter still to get to this point where we could bring it to you. 5 years. And that is actually a blend of 3 different years of distillation. Do you like it? It's magical. It's the first time that we have released a Mezcal on the Village Range since we started in 1995. We started with 4. 2 in 95 and 2 in 96. We added Tobola in 97. This is the first time we've added another village since 1995. We've added other Mezcals. We've added villages with wild agaves at different price points and so forth, but never at the Village Range. And it is now part of our core village lineup. Is it beautiful or what? This roast is cut right into the granite and agate cliffside. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So it tastes different than everything else. That is the roast being filled. There it is when it's finished. You can see the caramelization. They're really, really into ripeness. Their agaves are 10 to 12 years old. You can taste it. It's totally bone dry, but it tastes sweet and fruity, doesn't it? Incredibly round and soft. Here, the Molino, again with the horse in this case, 3 Tinas, and they had 1 Alambique, and they've been doing so great that this is the day that we opened the 2nd Alambique, so now we have 2 250-liter stills working. Ooh. And there he is, Anastasio himself, and with his sons and the next generation already working in the palenque. But I always like to make sure it's really the women that make this stuff work. And they're so humble and so beautiful. The women don't speak Spanish. They only speak Zapotec because they haven't been to school. Because in their village, just the boys went to school. Originally, not now. Now all the kids are going. But none of them speak Spanish. And they're so shy. Look at them. I took the picture and they're like freaking out. Oh, they're going to take my picture. Anyway, you like that? I think the second one's already out, right? They have Arroqueño? All right, good. Go with the third one. Arroqueño. Arroqueño is the genetic mother of Espadín. It is very rare and very special. You will taste a lot of Arroqueño that looks like Espadín and is Espadín, and it's just big. But Arroqueño is a different species, and it has a different flavor. Arroqueño is not the right model for a business plan because it takes anywhere from 12 to 25 years to ripen. And that's a problem if you're trying to make money at this. But if you're in a village and you're making mezcal to consume and share with your friends, who cares? So we, and many of our friends, are fanatics for Arroqueño. This is an incredibly rare treat. We just released our 2nd batch of Arroqueño for the first time. It is lot 171. Look for it. It's amazing. But what you have right here, 2014. That is 141. There is none left in the world. There's a little tiny bit in France, and Romain hand carried it over here so you guys could have it. That is 18 to 25-year-old agaves, roasted. Again, the cross. Look at the dog. Dog laying up. You know why he's laying up there? It's warm, man. It's cozy. Notice how big the hearts are and how caramelized they are. This is the place where they use the bats. This is the same tina that you saw earlier. And that is their clay still. This is 100% ancestral. You like? That's magic. Did we pour the next one? You guys are so fast. Keep going, man. Keep going. Where are we at? Are you up to the next one? They have Tomasiche already? They all have. Okay, go with the Tempestate. All right. You like that? Okay. So now you have Tomasiche, right? Tomasiche was a one-time deal. It's from the crop of 2014. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. I said plants and I said people. Let's go back to the family again like we did before. Don Lencho passed away a year ago, January, at the age of 89 years old. He was our rock. He makes pechuga, arroqueño, barril. Some of you know some of those babies. Fortunately for us, his two daughters, Elvira and Placida, continue on in his palenque and make the mezcal. The most beautiful thing in the world. About a year after he passed away, they invited me over. Arturo and I went over to meet with them. They had 25 liters of barril, 45 liters of arroqueño, and 90 liters of pechuga. I'm going, what are we going to do with 25 liters of barril? You know what we decided? Drink it and share it with our friends. So we bought it all because the most important thing is the old man's soul is living on in the mezcal. And that palenque is what makes this beautiful mezcal. And these women are amazing. By the way, the best mole you will ever taste in your entire life. I don't care what time of year it is or what color it is. Luis Carlos, his oldest son, who makes the arroqueño that you're just tasted right now. All right? Tomasiche was a one-time deal. 2014, the lot is 151. It is wild Tomasiche. So again, remember, it is the upright or Karwinski. That's what the hearts look like. They're like little fireplace logs, aren't they? It's pure wood. And remember, the agave is wood. That's why we have to roast it. This is what they look like after they come out of the roast. So they're a little bit darker, a little bit more caramelized. The molino that was used, we now at this palenque have 22 tinas, 2 hornos, and 7 alambiques. But that's our version of scaling up. Instead of having big stills, we have more small stills. Instead of roasting it in an oven, we have more hornos underground. Instead of fermenting it in big stainless steel tanks, we have more wooden tinas. Because that way we retain, I told you our mission is to protect this process. We will never vary from that. Our mission is to make sure these people get to make mezcal this way forever. That is Paciano. You might know him because he also makes something you've probably heard of called Vida. That would be Paciano. He also makes San Luis del Rio and Azul. And his son Marcos, you talk about sustainability, perhaps my favorite story, something we could never have known would happen, something that was amazing to us, is that as the business began to grow and as you started sharing it with your customers, there was a reason for the kids to stay home. You got to understand, every kid in Oaxaca goes to the United States and works as a busboy or picking tomatoes or grapes or works in construction and sends money home. Marcos was living in Indiana working in construction. His father had to do his ejido work. An ejido is like a reservation. The community works together. You don't own the land, you get the right to use the land from your community. This is how we stay sustainable. The community says, oh, you did work, you get this piece of land. Paciano built the road to San Luis del Rio and lived on it for 2 years, so he got out of doing any more community duty for about 20 years. Then they said, Paciano, your time has come, we need you to be president of the village. That was the year that we launched Vida. We're like, we need help. And we sent his 2 sisters with coyotes, because now they'd run into a wall. Don't get started on politics with me. He was brought back illegally, brought up illegally, and then had to be brought back illegally. And now he's home. That palenque you saw was his. He made that Tomasiche. He makes Madre Quiche, and he makes Azul. So Marcos, the son, 32 years old, was now home making mezcal. And in every one of our villages, either the kids have come home or they've stayed home, Some of them have gone to college and come back, but in every village there's a succession plan, and there's kids working in the village, which is amazing. Tepestate, which I think you just tasted without me. This is the Marmorata. It is unrelated to all other plants, okay? It's all by itself. This is the Palenque where it's made. The old Molina with stone, the still you saw earlier. And that is Rogelio, who some of you may know. Rogelio makes jabali, tobala, tepestate, and a quiche that you could have only had if you came to visit me in Oaxaca, because we don't bring it out yet, but maybe one day. Finally, we will taste papalome. Do they have that too? You guys are amazing. How do you do this? Papalome, we always thought it was cupreata. Cupreata is what they call papalome in Guerrero, and in the Mixteca Alta, way up in the northwest of Oaxaca, they make papalome. But if you say papalome looks a lot like tobola, they say, well, it's the same. Okay? Oh, is that the papalome now? Okay, perfect. This gives you an idea of what papalome looks like, but you might look at that and go, yeah, but which one? They look different, right? So finally, in foraging, because they're all foraged in the wild. Everything is foraged in the wild. I saw this plant, which is clearly a cupreata. And then I saw that plant, which is clearly a producteurs. And then I saw them growing side by side, and I said, wait a minute here. This, we call it cupreata because that's what papalome is supposed to mean. But in actuality, there are 3 different species. Now I'm going to just kind of spin your head a little bit here and show you that there are now 8 different subspecies between, 6 named, I got 2 of my own, between cupreata and producteurs. There's a strain of DNA that goes back probably several thousand years, which tells us they have the same genetic mother, okay? So, papalome made in this place still, all wild agave. Now in the Mixteca Alta, it's like the Garden of Eden. And the tobola there, even though it's small, and even though it's at 7,000 feet above sea level, it ripens in 10 to 12 years. So it's a lot younger than the tobola that we have. Again, the clay still, by the way, instead of using the cuchara here, he uses an arroqueño penca, a leaf from an arroqueño. And that is Fernando Caballero Cruz, also known as bigote. If you speak Spanish, you know that means mustache. Because he has the most beautiful mustache on the planet. Now, we are not going to taste tobola today. Well, we are, if you come and see me. And we'll have. We have the tobola at the table. It is the one that traveled in my flask that we used to convert the entire world to mezcal. I'll show it to you. Come and drink it with me. Ask your questions there. We'll go mano a mano, and that way I can actually finish on time. I know. He's telling me right there. This is another version. That is the cupreata. That is producteurs. But what the hell is that? Or that? Or that? Or that? Okay. Here's the deal. It's all one species now. We still haven't decided if they're subspecies or not, but they've named 6, as I said. The only way I can tell the difference, if you look at the spinas, and then you look at the reproduction. Okay, that's it. You have to go right into the middle because they look identical otherwise, okay? And that is producteurs that is specifically used in the tobola that you're going to come and taste with me, all right? It grows at 8,000 feet above sea level, in the shade of scrub oak trees, in pure granite cliffs. The root secretes an enzyme that cracks granite. It has to be 12 to 15 years old. It's roasted underground for 30 days. The hearts are about 5 to 6 kilos, which means we get about 500 or 600 liters a year. Now you say, well, how is that sustainable? Let's go back to the ejido. There are a lot of people that are trying really hard and doing really beautiful things, and I will never discourage this. When they say, you shouldn't be drinking wild tobola, it's not sustainable. And they're right, it's not if it were done differently. But in our ejido, there's one producer, the entire village works together for at least 6 generations that we know, and God knows how many before that. They have always harvested tobola in that village. They know how much to take, they know how much needs to grow. It only grows like a truffle. It cannot be planted or harvested except for clonally. which means if you don't let the bats come, it doesn't have biodiversity, which means it should not be planted in fields. I digress. Those are Tobola hearts. They're about the size of a football, soccer ball. Okay? And again, at the same palenque, and there he is, Rogelio the man. And as we finish, I just want to hit a note to come back to the plant and the people. This is how it needs to be done. No more cloning, no more hijuelos. We can do that to a certain extent. But we have to mix in seeds. We have to mix in the natural reproductive process of the agave. Some agaves will sprout hijuelos out of their roots. Others will only do quiotes, as we call it. That is a quiote. That is when they flower. Now, whether it's birds, bats, bees, or butterflies, they come and break the bud. In some plants, it becomes a flower and seeds. Many plants, it becomes a small agave, like a mammal, growing off of its mother. And when it gets too heavy, it breaks off, falls on the ground, and plants itself in the earth. Truly. It's magical. Now, if we do this, harvest them, capture them, replant them, these were done by hummingbirds, as a matter of fact. That's a tepestate, which you just tasted. This is us letting an entire field go to seed. How much money did that cost us in agave? It's not about that. It's about the future. It's about making sure that we have enough to plant so that we can keep up your love and demand for agave. This is as easy as it could be. And by the way, we did not teach them this. They taught us. These are pups that are planted in the garden. Those are arauqueños. That's what it looks like when they grow up. Corn, beans, squash, the Mayan garden, all living in harmony, all being symbiotic in the soil, replacing the nutrients that the others take out. You don't need to rotate crops if you do it this way. And they've known this for 6,000 freaking years. That's why they invented corn, for God's sakes, as a food source to complement agave. This is how it's done in San Luis del Rio for Vida. Each one of those plots represents a different field and different mothers. They're allowed to grow, and then when they replant, they take some from each, so there's biodiversity in the field. Guys, it's not rocket science, okay? This is as easy as it is. Now I come back to the people. There are some people you haven't met yet, and I want you to meet. You only met a few of our producers. Faustino, our very first producer, you all know Chichicapa, 1995. But here, Faustino and his son Max, who came home from picking grapes in California, and now they're partners. They went from 1 still to 3 stills. Still the old way, but having 2 of them, they can do more work. Esperidio, you know Santo Domingo Alvarado's. His son Juanito, who never left and stayed home. And his daughter Esther, don't kid yourself for 1 second. She's the first person in their village ever to go to college. Not first woman, first person. And she runs it. Esperidio's the patriarch. The boys make the mezcal. But last year, each boy, one did church service, one did village service, and neither one of them could work. Did we have Santo Domingo Alvarado's all year? How did we have it? Esther did. She made all the mezcal. And when we pay them for their mezcal, guess who we pay? Don Roberto, who makes San Jose Rio Minas, yes, that is a single-person suspension bridge that you have to walk to get to his palenque, and we have to carry the mezcal over that bridge to get home. And I put this up here because without Arturo, we don't function. There's Marcos, who you met earlier, and the only gringo who works in Mexico, because every other person in our company are indigenous. They're Native Americans, is Gabe. But we needed a director of sustainability, and he's lived in Mexico for 20 years. Oh, how did that get in there? The people. All of our palenqueros on our 20th anniversary, I wanted to make sure you understand that our palenqueros are our partners. When we are successful, they are successful. This is the day that we shared with them our newfound success and told them about our future. But I want to make sure it ends this way. How poor is this woman? Look at the clothes. But look at how happy she is. She has nothing. And she wants for nothing. Oaxaca is an amazing, diverse, and beautiful place. The people there do not all make mezcal, but they are all affected by the business. Now, we are at a turning point right now. We can go in and mass produce and put in factories and change the rules and make it just like we did to tequila and had to bring it back. Or we can stand our ground and we can say, no, it's about the people. It's about the kids. It's about the families. It's about the future. It's our job. Because I don't know about you, but I'm guessing that we all agree on this. Every child in the world deserves the right to clean water, food, an education, clothing, and shoes. Is that asking too much? As bartenders, we actually have that power. I will never tell you what to drink. I'll never say, put down Maguey on your shelf. What I will say is this: do the freaking research. Find out where the money goes, and if any of it is going where it should go, which is making sure that that little kid has the future that every child deserves. I'm out of time. Thank you very much, everybody. I love you. Come and see me up there. Remember, bring your coquita, go to our station. Roman and I will be there, and you will drink Tobola with us. We brought Tobola for you. One minute. Oh.